This is Ivy Unleashed,
a Gold Ivy production. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Ivy Unleashed. Thank you so much for being here. You are going to be so happy you're here today because today is a really big day. The guests that we have here are two powerhouses in the health and wellness space that Brooke and I look up to so much. Not only do they have a podcast that creates an inclusive space for health and wellness knowledge that we can apply to our everyday life called Highway to Well, they also created a product that you may have seen in Whole Foods. Their natural juice product, Blueprint, sold for $25 million. And they are now taking the fungi world by storm with their product, Earth and Star. So Zoe and Erica, welcome to Ivy Unleashed.
Thank you. What an amazing intro. Can you just follow me around and do that every time I meet somebody?
I will follow you anywhere. I was someone that I'll have a notepad and a pen just studying you.
We are so excited, like Andrea said, because when I found you and your mission, I was beyond thrilled because it is our mission. It completely aligns. Everything you preach is what we preach, and it's all about simplifying the complex world of health and talking about if supplements are going to be used and a part of your life, they need to be quality supplements and complement the changes that you're already working on. And that was me within my health journey. You know, listeners know that for the past 5 years, this has been my world, and it's what saved my life, and it's now why I do what I do. And so Zoe and Erica, I would love to know the why behind the work you do.
Well, thank you again for such a lovely introduction, and we really appreciate everything that you ladies are doing as well. I think, you know, we've had our own individual health journeys through some things that are a bit more sort of standard and common. Zoe has 2 children, and she's gone through the kind of, the whole experience of motherhood and conception and all of that. And I've had, I don't have children, and I've had my own health journeys with, some kind of surprise medical sort of wake up calls and that kind of thing. So I don't think that it's out of character to say that, we're doing this based on our own experiences. However, it's also something where we're really doing what we're doing because we think that we kind of have a knack for taking whatever does exist in the wellness world that is super effective and, powerful, and really trying to translate it to an audience, to a broader audience outside of the wellness community. That's what we did with Blueprint. We like to say, we didn't invent green juice. We just put it out in the world in a different way that made it a little bit more appealing and a little bit more palatable. And that's kind of the same ethos that we're applying to what we're doing with functional mushrooms. It's even the ethos that we applied to our podcast, which is just, look, like, wellness information should really be available to everybody. It should be completely democratic. It should not be about, feeling like all the buzzwords and you're in on some weird little like goopy circle, no disrespect. But so the same thing with what we're doing with functional mushrooms. We really do feel like they just literally help you function better, and everybody needs to know about it.
Yeah, it's like a disservice if we don't tell you what's helping us.
Yes.
That's how I feel now with my journey.
Yeah, and I think you do such a great job of that on your podcast too, of having these really well-known experts that could talk in a different language, and you make it very accessible for people to understand, to apply to their life. You both apply things to your life, and I think that's what just helps people have an example of, okay, but like, do I need it? Like, if I'm eating really healthy, do I need mushrooms, or like, how does that work? And so I love how you break information down. It's really, really helpful. And something that I think is interesting too is just thinking about how you two came together to create this, because I just love the story behind anything. Mm-hmm. It's so great to hear. And your lives are different. You're 2 different women, I'm sure, with 2 different passions, but you come together on this. And so how did that happen where you two kind of met, and like, how did that magic start between you two?
We met the old-fashioned way in a bar. Back in the early 2000s, or the early aughts, some say. We were working together at an Ian Schrager hotel. We were slinging drinks, and, Erica was interested in certain things, and I was interested in other things. And at the time, that happened to be sort of raw food and this idea that you could heal yourself with food, and it was a bit extreme and very new at the time. No one was using the word plant-based, let alone like, I mean, at the time, I think it was just weird enough, even if you were a vegetarian, which is so crazy to think now because it's just like such a part of quickly becoming a part of our culture. So I was on that journey, and it was that was a weird duality, like just having one foot very firmly in this sort of like, I'm in my 20s living in New York City, working in the bar scene, like going to college, but I also love this whole other world that is like such a polar opposite. So it was a very interesting thing to negotiate. But eventually I kind of went down that rabbit hole far enough where I was like, oh, this is definitely what I need to do. Like, I can't be interested in anything else more than I am with this. So yeah, I at the time, I was definitely on a raw food diet for some time, but I was also like drinking alcohol. Like, it was just like this very interesting mix of worlds. But I had spent some time eventually at a place called the Ann Wigmore Institute in Puerto Rico, which is like this raw food, wheatgrass therapy institute where a lot of people go. A lot of people end up sort of as a last resort when they have like a terminal illness. I was the only person there who was not terminal. I was like, I just came to learn and, give myself this enema.
My girl.
It was a very intense like 17 days. Yes, there's nothing quite as romantic as spending the evening with yourself, self-administering an enema in the bathroom of some like janky institute. I mean, the place was not exactly a 5-star resort. It was a bit like, kind of like I showed up and I was like, are we going out of business, guys? I digress. But anyway, so so that experience was pretty pivotal for me personally, just in that I saw this incredible transformation happening with people and their healing journeys. I mean, people showed up with cancer and literally left without it. And so, it was fascinating to think like that this would be the last resort, and why is this not the first resort? Like, why isn't this just how we live, but maybe a little bit more dialed down, like not quite so extreme. Like I don't have to go to an island and like cut myself off from the rest of society. So, I mean, that was sort of the beginnings of this idea of a cleanse and incorporating raw foods and wheatgrass or juice therapy into your diet on a more regular basis and taking a more preventative approach to health. So came back, started doing some dabbling in that, still working in the bar scene. Erica and I were still friends and had our own circles. And, there was a point at which, the framework was developed and people were, sort of trying it. I had this little group of women that were wonderful guinea pigs up in Connecticut, and they kept coming back for this juice cleanse. And it's like, oh, this is really getting some traction. And I think that there's something here. And, realized that I definitely needed a partner, needed a kitchen, something a little bit more official. Time Out New York at the time, which was so popular, and I don't even think it exists anymore, does it?
Not in the same way. Not in the same way, yeah. It's like a city guide and that's all. And people aren't reading it for the editorial.
But so they wanted a press release and they were like, what is this juice cleanse? And of course I had to call my friend Erica at the time who was working in PR. And I was like, I need a press release. You know what that is? So she, so we started having conversations about teaming up, and Erica at the time was not exactly in love with what she was doing at her PR agency. I don't think it was her true calling, but I'll let her tell that part.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically it. It was definitely not my true calling. I loved what I was learning. I was really fascinated with the food and beverage and hospitality world in general. So those were the types of clients that I was working on. And but the more we started talking, it was like everything that we were, discussing in terms of this program and this concept just made sense on a very intuitive level to me. It was literally common sense. Like, why aren't more people doing this? It's because they don't know about it. They're not aware. So how do we raise awareness on something that is so simple that, to Zoe's point, already exists? It's just in this very weird kind of marginalized way. And that was, really when the light bulb went on for both of us of like, we have these complementary skill sets. We have a passion for delivering this like very important information and this very delicious and, actually easy to use product and, system. And so, people often ask like, well, what was it like taking that risk? And we say like, it never felt like a risk. It really actually just felt like this is what we need to do next. Like there's no questions about this. This is not something I have to really ponder. This is just obviously where the road is going next.
That's so interesting. Well, it's nice that you both felt that way, even with your different backgrounds. And I mean, in business and moving forward from like these people testing it out to getting investors, like that process has to be pretty wild to go through. And so how was it kind of moving through those stages together with like making decisions together? And, sometimes imposter syndrome can come in, or, if people say like they don't believe in you at all, like how did you guys handle all those pieces of getting the investors?
Well, to be clear, we actually never had investors for the company. We were self-funded from day one. We were cash positive from day one. Wow. The model was very unique. Everything was made to order. We kind of liken it to like a drug dealer's model. Like you're not selling anything you don't already have in hand. So that piece of it was actually not something that really was a source of stress for us, at least until we scaled up, over the course of those 5 years before we sold. And towards the end of it, we recognized that it was going to take, a big financial kind of impact in order to get us to the next level. But early on, for all we were doing, we had a lot of people coming to us to say they wanted to invest. And we were like, thanks, but I don't think we really need it right now. Imposter syndrome doesn't happen till later. So we were fine. We had the benefit of like nothing to compare it to, no benchmark, no blueprint, if you will. So we were kind of just putting one foot in front of the next. And, we had that sort of blissful ignorance, which we'll never have again.
No, we're totally just traumatized now for life. Everything is just harder. But yeah, no, we never took on an investor. And, it definitely helps the momentum, at least when you have a business that just has this natural organic growth and word of mouth growth. And, you're not having to put a lot of, it's not that we didn't put a lot of effort behind getting it out there, but, it was also a very different time. There wasn't any social media, really. I mean, it was just Facebook at the time. Like Amazon was not Amazon. It barely existed. Nobody was doing direct to consumer. So the fact that we were delivering things to your door and beverage to boot was like really unique. And it felt very special. So people were just like giddy to have something like delivered to the door. So it's a really, it was a really different time. And I think we definitely, looking back, like realize how fortunate that timing was. I mean, I think it was like it's not to say that all of these social media platforms aren't amazing instruments and tools to get your business off the ground, but I don't know, it's also very noisy and very crowded and very competitive. It's just it's a different approach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It sounds like you've had this really blissful, you two moment, getting the cash, like things kind of lining up nice. And then now you have this product that we're going to talk about that's like, now it sounds like you said, like we've been traumatized. There's a lot of moving pieces. Now there's social media. Yeah. And so like you have these different experiences, and I bet that's created a lot of, personal growth for you as entrepreneurs and people. And so what's that been like?
Well, I think, and to answer your earlier question, because it speaks to this as well, in terms of how we made decisions together, I think very early on, we really recognized and created, some, not even created, there were just sort of some natural, kind of guardrails around certain areas where we each were kind of more focused than the other. And then there were areas that we came together, and people always ask us, like, how do you divide your responsibilities? And it's not really that black and white on paper. It's like, we've known each other for, 20 years at this point. We understand each other's cadence and work style and areas of like real, superpower and real interest. And it really just comes very naturally in terms of like who's focusing on what and when it makes sense to kind of, align and talk through stuff. And that's not to say that we always agree on every decision of what we need to do next, but we also never come to blows over it. It's like, we'll talk this through and figure out where you're coming from, where I'm coming from, and figure out what makes sense for the best, for the business's best interest. And so now I think, it's not dissimilar to that. We've really been able to apply what we learn in terms of like work styles and all of that and go forward. But yeah, I mean, there is still now, we're in a trickier place where we know what we didn't know then, and we probably, we still don't know what we don't know. But I think it's super important for us to kind of stay aligned in terms of our communication with each other. And it's not to say that it works with every partnership. I think we're, supremely lucky, and we are often reminding ourselves and each other of how fortunate we are to really have this dynamic and be able to kind of live in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm curious. So when you started Blueprint, right, you said there wasn't social media, that it was direct to consumer, and now things are very different, and there are so many supplements just flooding the market. And so I'm curious how your business plan has pivoted, or ways you've had to, incorporate new strategies and how that looks, because the world is constantly changing now with social media. And that's what we're realizing as entrepreneurs is, okay, 1 minute it's TikTok, and then the next minute it's, nope, try this and this and this. And there's so many things being thrown at you. And so how to know what to listen to and to really go forward with.
Yeah, we'll let you know when we figure it out.
I was going to say, it's such a good question.
I mean, it's just like, oh God, isn't that the question of the hour or the millisecond? Because every second you have to ask yourself how to navigate and how to like recalibrate based on what's going on in technology and culture. And yeah, things are moving fast. Again, back in the early 2000s, the wellness world, the wellness industry was not even an industry really to the extent that it is today. So it's like people have a lot of options.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have that many options then. So, not only do they have a ton of options, but you have so many people, these sort of like quote unquote experts on social media who are just like, because I have a juicer, I'm like, like, listen to me. Like, I'm just a self-proclaimed sort of like expert in celery or like whatever it is. I mean, it's just, you really don't know where to look. You don't know what the true, information is, and it's confusing. And so, yeah, I think that is like a constant battle, and it's a constant question for us. So no, we don't have the answer.
Well, good. That makes me feel better.
Yeah. And I honestly, like, we talked to other businesses as well and other founders, and it's fun to have these conversations because it's validating. It's kind of like, oh, okay, everyone is really trying to keep up, and everyone is trying to adjust in real time to the changes that are happening. So it's like literally last month, everyone was like still on Instagram, and suddenly it's like you blink and TikTok is like where to put all of your attention, because you got to talk to Gen Z. It's where all of your efforts should go. It's where all the return is. So it's just, like Clubhouse doesn't exist anymore. Like for a second, it was like all the rage. And I was like, oh my God, we got to get on Clubhouse. So it's like, it's so easy to be pulled in all these different directions. So yeah, I mean, I think probably a good strategy would just be to sort of like pause and not like be so reactive to all of these trends like immediately as they happen. And that's a challenge because everybody has this sort of like very strong, you have to be competitive, but there's this fear of missing out. Like you're going to miss the boat on whatever these trends are. So it's a struggle.
So let me ask you this, because you are being pulled so many different ways. You are trying to promote your product that you believe in, that works, while also taking into account how you're different from all these other products and how you fit in. But you both are very health conscious for yourselves. And so how do you take care of yourself during all of this madness? That's my question.
Yeah. Also, we'll let you know when we can get the answer to that. It's a very slippery slope, and I'm not going to sit here and say that, I practice all of the proper protocols and self-care rituals every single day without fail. And that's what keeps me centered, because it doesn't, I cry a lot, and I have my moments of just like, what are we doing? And I think anybody who says that never happens is probably lying. But, I think it is, look, every day there is an opportunity to say, we get to do this. Like, we don't have to do this. We get to do this. And I try to remind myself of that when the going gets super tough, because it has been tough. Like, I don't think anybody's pulling any punches here. It's profoundly meaningful to have a partner, because, in every instance, but particularly when the going is tough and you have to kind of keep yourself moving forward, because you know that when it all comes down to it, there is somebody else that's exactly in your boat. And that really is meaningful to me. It maybe is not important to other people, but certainly for me, it's always nice to feel like there's that sense of solidarity. But yeah, I think, we both try to kind of keep a balance of like, okay, I'm probably going to need a little bit of an extra self-care day today. I'm going to need a little extra time. I may need to go and like do some more walking than I normally would do, or do some like literally just not responding to things. I need to kind of go dark for a little while. I think it's really just trying to tune in to like being just super honest with like where you're at. I think both of us are kind of, fed up with the concept of like the spiritual bypassing, where we're just like, everything is great. It's great. It's great. Like it's not, and nobody.
It is.
It is.
It's like my least favorite thing in the world.
Right. But that being said, I think, we both I'm inclined towards like keeping healthier habits and eating clean and moving around and, focusing on what I can control when things are definitely feeling out of control.
Love that. How about you, Zoe?
I mean, it's not dissimilar. I don't have, some strict routine that I stick to at all. I mean, in fact, I get quite bored, and I find that very, that I find that if I try to do something like in too routine of a way, that I just like will not do it at all. So I don't know. I try and switch it up. I mean, my thing is like just try and do one thing every day, and it doesn't have to be the same thing. Like, so, if I do Pilates today, then maybe it's like, I'll do like a sauna tomorrow and sweat. And the next day, maybe I'll go for like, I don't know, a hike or something. I don't know. I just try and do something like one thing a day where I could be like, okay, that was like a moment where I took for myself and it was a positive thing. I don't have like a meditation practice, although I do that sometimes. It's nothing regular. I don't have a gratitude journal. I really like talking to friends on the phone. I find that is insanely feel like uplifting and makes me feel immediately better. And that's something that we don't do anymore, really. It's like, there's little things, those little points of connection in real time with real people, I think are extremely valuable and overlooked. So that's a big one. I don't know. I think that those are the top, that's pretty much it. There's no real magic, there's no real secret in my back pocket. I wish that there was, but it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah. It also sounds just like the way you two talk, that yourself well, and something like Brooke and I have had on like human design people and, astrology and all these different things to get to know yourself more. And it sounds like you both know what you need, variety is really important for you. And I love what you said too about like, it changes. It's not always the same, but if I just do one thing a day, like just even knowing that that's important, or going dark, like you said, Erica, like just not responding to things and giving yourself a minute to just be a human being, even checking on what you need, especially when you're creating a product like Earth and Star. I really want to get into this. I want to hear about it. And I think that, we're starting to hear more about mushrooms and their healing properties. And I think a lot of people, like, they've heard about them, but they actually don't really know that much about them. And so just give us the rundown on Earth and Star, what it is. We want to hear all about it.
I know, it's funny. It's a confusing area, I will say. We're not, we're still also learning how to make that a very quick, digestible, like, bit, because it's a complicated subject. And I think for, Americans, it's even more complicated because we just aren't as familiar with functional mushrooms, adaptogens, as the rest of the world. But adaptogens, adaptogenic mushrooms, medicinal mushrooms, functional mushrooms, however you want to call them, they sort of have a few different names, are different from culinary mushrooms that you eat, like portobello, et cetera. And they're different from the psilocybin, so the trippy ones. Basically, these are adaptogens. So basically, the function is really to bring you into homeostasis. The main function across all, these medicinal mushrooms is that they are immunomodulators, which means that they're great for your immune system. They bring you into balance. So if your immune system is too high, it'll bring it down. If it's low, it'll raise it up. But they have great properties. So depending on the mushroom, they all offer something additional in addition to immune support. And we focus on a handful of them. So we focus mainly on lion's mane, reishi, cordyceps, chaga, and a few others, but they all have their own sort of unique superpower. So lion's mane is great for cognitive function. There's science that shows it wards off dementia. I mean, these are really, really powerful mushrooms that have been studied and are used often in pharmaceuticals. In fact, like 40% of pharmaceuticals are derived from medicinal mushrooms, which not a lot of people know. But if you think about penicillin, fungus. So we use lion's mane, cordyceps. Cordyceps are great for energy. They increase your oxygen uptake, great for stamina. They're associated with improving your libido oftentimes. Chaga is one of these just really off the chart mushrooms. It's actually, it's fungus, but chaga has the antioxidant power. It's like 1,000 times more powerful than like pomegranates and goji berries and blueberries combined. So it's really the most, one of the most antioxidant rich foods on the planet. Reishi is often associated with calm and relaxation. It's actually great for your liver. If you're looking to detoxify your liver, like I often am, because I truly love wine. And it's great to take at night, because that's when your liver cleans itself. So anyway, the functionality kind of runs, it's different depending on the product, but those are the ones that we tend to highlight. But the idea with Earth and Star is that we want to basically improve what you're already doing. So we want your habits to get a little bit better. It's very simple. So, if you are a coffee drinker and you love coffee, we have a amazing organic dark roast coffee. We've got a great ready to drink cold brew, and we've just added functionality. So we've just made it healthier. And we do this across the board with other food, snacks, beverages. So we've got a line of lattes and cold brew coffee. We have ground coffee for home use. We've got a line of tinctures. We have gummies, if that's your thing. As we know, it is for so many Americans. Do you know that adults actually consume more gummies than kids? Just a fun fact for.
It honestly doesn't surprise me.
I think it's like 70% of gummy consumers in the US are actually adults, not children. And then we have a delicious line of chocolate bars, which are again 72% organic dark chocolate. No junk. Everything is super clean label, and we've just added a ton of functional mushroom extracts. So nothing tastes like mushrooms. Everything tastes exactly as it should. So if it's a chocolate bar, it tastes like a chocolate bar, because it is. And if it's ground coffee, it tastes like amazing ground coffee. So that's the idea. We basically just want to improve your everyday habits.
Yeah, and I love that you guys are small changes, because I think, and from my personal experience, it's overwhelming. All of these things we can do to take care of ourselves, right? And when you guys were talking about how you take care of yourself, it's whatever you feel like you need. And it's different for everyone. And for the longest time in my healing journey, it was finding the perfect routine, finding the perfect products. And it's all about just, that is causing stress, which is not helping, right? So with your products, it's have this inside of your coffee or add this gummy in. It's super, super simple. I will say too, something that comes to mind is coffee. And for all of our listeners who deal with some gut health issues like your girl, switching to coffee that has mushrooms in it and is easier to digest, isn't full of mold. Like, you can get super specific on what you're looking for, but I just want to call out that if you notice that coffee upsets your stomach, this is an incredible alternative.
Right. I was also thinking of the dark chocolate just being a healthier alternative, just being dark chocolate than milk chocolate or whatever kind of chocolate's out there. So to have it also with mushrooms, I think my biggest thing when I think about this product or these products is that, sometimes I think we resist feeling our best. It's like, but how good could you feel? Like, yes, you're drinking your coffee, but what if your coffee actually made you a little bit quicker,
smarter,
like on your toes, making you feel like not only am I a little jacked because I got my caffeine, is like also like, this is actually really good for my immune system. This is great for me long-term health-wise. Coffee actually helps you live longer too. It's actually really good for you. But to have a high quality product, I feel like you could gift it to people. It could be a treat for yourself with the dark chocolate.
Hell yeah. I'm curious what customers are saying about it. Like, what type of reviews have you heard from people who regularly use it or have just tried it and what they've noticed?
Yeah, well, it kind of goes back to what you were just saying, which is like, it's a simple revelation, which is, oh my God, this is just coffee, but it's so much better than my daily, what I was drinking before. And I'm finding not only, am I experiencing the benefits, but I'm also just consuming less of it, because I mean, that is kind of one of the other little happy side effects of the combination of mushrooms. We also use some L-theanine in our ground coffee and our cold brew, is that you sort of feel that clarity and that focus come quicker than if you do when you're drinking just super caffeinated regular coffee and you don't have the crash, not finding yourself continuing to reach for the pot and to keep refilling and to keep refilling. Like, 2 cups is really, that's going to do everything that you need. And in terms of, other reviews, I mean, people are obsessed with the gummies, as Zoe was saying. We've created all of these like beautiful products and they're super clean label and no refined sugar. And then like at the end of the day, people just want candy. So we're going to give it to them. So people are obsessed with the gummies. Also because it's just a really quick way. I mean, the packaging is beautiful. It's nice to have it on your counter. It looks really pretty and kind of sleek. And it's 2 gummies per day is essentially your multivitamin. And it's a super, super powerful dose. So it's 2,500 milligrams of extracts, which I know you wanted to talk a little bit about, kind of the integrity and making sure you know what you're getting. We're very transparent with, how much we're using of everything, because we feel like it's super important for people to understand the difference between a product that says reishi and a product that says reishi 750 milligrams. Is a huge difference. So people love the gummies and the chocolate, as we're saying, like it is just delicious dark chocolate. And anybody who has a palate for dark chocolate can really understand that it's got like this super rich mouthfeel and it is not too sweet, but it's just sweet enough. And the mushroom extracts add, a little bit of a layer of kind of complexity and just make it that much more delicious. And yeah, I mean, people are literally obsessed with another one. The turmeric is actually a good example. So we have a turmeric latte that's just, it's a turmeric and ginger blend, very similar to what a golden milk latte is that you would see. And, more and more you're seeing it. But across the board, people are like, I have not found a turmeric latte that really meets, my kind of taste preferences until this one, because it's really the right balance of, the ginger, it's got a little bit of heat and it's like those really warming spices. And then our oat milk is like our own proprietary recipe. It's super creamy and delicious. And yeah, people are completely obsessed with the turmeric.
Super creamy and delicious without having seed oils. So I don't know if people truly realize this, but we're on a mission to explain and remind everyone that if you look at the ingredient list, so many snacks, beverages have seed oils, which are super inflammatory, like canola oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil. Like these are not things that you're supposed to be consuming, definitely not on a daily basis. So yeah, we do not use any seed oils in any of our products. It's really, people use it because it's cheap. It helps it sort of stabilize. It gives it a creamy texture, increases shelf life. So we don't really cut any corners. And I can't talk enough about seed oils. I think do we have an episode on our podcast about seed oils?
We do, but we need to have a new one. We need a new one.
Yeah, we do. Okay. I'll get off my seed oil soapbox now.
No, please continue. I was just going to say, I'm so happy you mentioned that, because we were telling Erica a little bit before we started recording just about our TikTok and how it's blowing up, because I've started sharing gut health tips and my journey. And one of them is switching from these nasty seed oils and why they're bad to olive oil and other options. And I think what I found with just interacting with people online is the price, right? Either the knowledge isn't there, but all of these packaged foods, they're affordable. And so if you're not educating yourself, it's the cheap option. Why would you spend this much money on all of these things? And so it's important to know what you're getting out of these things and the cost of health when you don't have it. So prevention medicine, because of going thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in debt from being sick, this is so important to me. And so if I can help people, and I'm sure you share this mission, of helping yourself now before it gets to that point of really how you can feel good by making these small shifts. You need less of the product and you feel way better. Like, it is so worth the money. And so that's my soapbox is it may look expensive, you know, any product that is deemed healthy, but here's why, because of the quality and the value and what it's doing for your health.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we as a culture just have such an issue with volume and consumption. You know, like the Cheesecake Factory is like the sort of representative of everything that is wrong with the way that we eat, which is, you know, everything is supersized always. And we don't understand, to your point, we don't understand the value of a little bit less, but higher quality goes the distance. And we have to start getting into that mindset of what you're saying. Exactly, like preventative measures now will pay off in the long run. And if you spend a little bit of extra money on that olive oil, that super high quality organic extra virgin olive oil right now, as opposed to saving whatever you're going to save, like $1, $2 on, you know, the cheap canola oil or whatever, that actually will pay dividends. But it's a very hard mindset to shift into. And look, not everybody is in the position, I fully recognize, to spend $12 on a bottle of olive oil, but wherever you can make those small changes, it is just so critical.
Right. And again, going back to education and the benefits of olive oil versus the other oils. And so I'm so glad you touched on that, Zoe, because I think that's really important. And I think people don't know that. They don't go to school for nutrition, so they just don't know. And a plant, okay, like plants are good. So sometimes it's like these common things that you think that people would know, they just don't. And how I'm curious about how that is as an entrepreneur, creating such a quality product, knowing that there's costs that you're going to have to pay. Like, how do you create a quality product that you're like, oh, I want to cut costs here, but we just can't, you know, how does that go?
It's a challenge. I mean, I think it is, you know, it's frustrating when you sort of make all of these products super clean and you take all the time and the effort and spend all the money, and, you know, not everyone sees the value in it, I guess. And so at the same time, I see why sometimes companies just don't go to that, make the effort, right? So it's like, well, if people aren't going to, that's not how they vote, right? Like they vote with their taste buds. Like does it taste good? Great. I'm going to buy it. Is it kind of cheap? Great. I'm going to buy it. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's people are going to give the customer what they want. So it's a tricky thing. I think it's a lot of educating. It's a lot of, you know, messaging strategy. You know, how do you communicate these things without feeling preachy and like, you know, you're telling people they're doing something wrong, or like, you know, you have to be so clean and pristine with your lifestyle and how you eat. I mean, don't get us wrong. Like we definitely indulge and we have our vices like as anyone else. And I have 2 kids and they eat like frozen waffles, and I'm sure there's canola oil in there. Like, so I think, again, it's just a matter of communicating the simple message of like, here's the education, do with it what you like. If it means something to you, make a change, you know, maybe upgrade here and, you know, sacrifice over here a little bit, you know, just sort of like finding this balance. But I think for us, the most important piece is that people are actually aware of what they're consuming, because there's just no transparency. And, you know, especially when it comes to functional mushrooms, I mean, it's a new category. There is really not a lot of regulation, and everyone is jumping in now. And I know oftentimes it will fall into this sort of like murky world of somewhere between supplement and somewhere between food. So it's very confusing. I think, you know, for us, another message that we're trying to communicate very clearly and strongly is that with functional mushrooms, you know, it's very important that you are consuming products, functional mushroom products that are actually using the right part of the mushroom, which contains all of the functionality that we're promising, right? Like all this immune support, this gut health, all of these wonderful things come from these compounds called beta glucans or polysaccharides. Those are concentrated in the fruiting body, which is the mushroom, the top part that you actually see above ground, or in this case, most often like, you know, on the side of a tree. But the mycelium is the root structure that you don't see, right? And that is something that can be very cheaply cultivated on like an unnatural substrate, like a grain or a rice or oat. And so what's happening now in the space is that a lot of brands are using the mycelium, grinding it up with all of that oat or rice or whatever they're growing it on, putting it in a bag and calling it a mushroom extract. So we are very upset by this. It's definitely something we need to educate around, and we need to, we do a lot of messaging on our packaging. We make sure that we always use the word 100% fruiting body, no mycelium. And I think, consumers need to be aware of that. And there's a lot of markety kind of spin to this word mycelium too, which is like mycelial biomass, or like full spectrum mycelium and fruiting body. But it's a bunch of shiitake, honestly. I think you have to just be really aware when you're buying mushroom products that you have to look out for fruiting body, which is what you want, mycelium, which is not what you want. Mycelium has a great place elsewhere, like in textiles and replacing leather and plastics, but it's not a consumable for functionality.
And the fact that so many companies are doing that because of costs, and the consumer, they don't know. They see, oh, these healing benefits of mushrooms, like, hell yeah, put me on, when little do you know. And that's exactly what I wanted to avoid during my healing journey, and why I think it is so important. I know it's important because exactly what you said.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious why that's not regulated more. I'm sure that's what makes you so mad, but like,
money.
It will be. Okay, it's coming.
It's just too new. Too new. And I think that, coupled with, what I was saying earlier about the actual milligrams, again, we're really trying to lead with transparency and education. So you can let somebody know that just because your product says it has reishi doesn't actually mean it has any kind of meaningful dosage in it. It just means that they're allowed to put that on the label. So, without resorting to public shaming, we're really trying to just lead with as much education on our side as possible to inform people to make a choice. And if nothing else, they will say, okay, well, I learned from you, but I like this product better, so I'm going to get it. And we're like, you know what? Great. Like, you're still getting the right quality, and you're a believer in what we're trying to build. And ultimately that comes back around.
Totally. And I'm sure people listening, because now I'm wondering, all right, we've got all these amazing properties of mushrooms, good quality. Where can they find it?
You can find it on our website, earthandstar.com. And of course, Amazon.
Well, good to know. Awesome.
So something I want to add, people ask like, well, how do I know which one I'm supposed to take when? And the whole idea is really like, we're not prescriptive about it. I take a different combination of our products every day, just depending on what I'm, up for. The gummies are easy. The tinctures are super easy. But there's no prescriptive amount. It's like, and it's also, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to actually overdose on functional mushrooms. Like, we're talking about a therapeutic dose being, around 2,000 milligrams or 2 grams. I mean, I have friends that take like 7 grams a day of just lion's mane for cognitive support. So it's really, of course, you should check with your doctor. We're not suggesting that you just kind of like go, freely into the wind and consume nothing but mushrooms all day. But, you let your doctor know what you're consuming, and there should be no issue.
And then your doctor will be like, what are functional mushrooms?
Right. And then you can educate them with everything you just learned.
So yeah, be sure to ask your doctor.
And they'll say, nutrition has nothing to do with how you feel.
Exactly.
I'm curious, your tagline is the future is fungi. What do you mean by that?
Oh, so many things. We love this. I mean, so the future is fungi. Simply means that the future is fungi. That suddenly we have all of these issues, right? Whether they're health issues, environmental issues, mental health issues. And it seems like out of nowhere, all of a sudden, mushrooms are the answer for every single one of those things. Not the only answer, but they're pretty powerful. So if you think about, everything that we're doing with functional mushrooms and what they do for your health, when you ingest them, extremely powerful. It's a loading process. You do it every day. It's a preventative health measure. I mean, it's a great tool that we haven't used yet. And then if you think about, where we are environmentally, which is terrifying, we're now discovering that there's a mushroom that actually eats oil spills and landfills and plastic, can actually break it down, consume it, and then you can actually eat that mushroom. And that mushroom will actually have healthy benefit like properties in it. So that just absolutely blows my mind, as well as, when you think about textiles and, the leather industry being just like horrible for the environment. So you can use mycelium, which is the root part of the mushroom, to make leather, and a bunch of really high fashion. Does that sound crazy?
No, I'm just wondering if there is a mushroom for snoring dogs.
I know. I was like, is that someone's dog?
And then there's, a mushroom that you can just stick right on the snout. My dog I'm so sorry. He just he won't leave my side.
It's okay. Our listeners are dog lovers.
Very good. So environmentally, they're solving tons of problems, where they're replacing plastic, at least the mycelium part of it, replacing leather, eating oil spills, and then all of the work that's going into MAPS and mental health and using psilocybin as a tool there is just, I can't wait for that to get a little bit more attention and hopefully be more widely embraced legally, at least. All of those things are coming. I mean, they're here. So that's, I guess, what we mean by the future is fungi.
I love that. Man, you're smart, Zoe. Me too, Erica. I feel like it's just so nice. I feel like people sell products. It's so much just for the money, and it's just it's good. Buy it. But it's you guys know what you're talking about. You care what you're providing and putting into the world. And, you even are saying someone else is going to buy their product. I mean, cool. It'll come back. I just think you have so much integrity in the work that you're doing and what you're putting into the world. And you've done this more than once. And I think it's just awesome that there's entrepreneurs like you out there in the world that, number one, provide a podcast with just endless free tips about how to take care of yourself. And then to think about where's the gap? Let's fill it. Fill it with something that makes sense. And sounds like you have really good timing on when those things need to come into the universe too. So that's awesome. But just thank you for what you're doing, the work you're doing, the products you're providing. Everything is cheap and unhealthy, and it's a weird system to create what you're creating and to get into. And I bet it's super challenging. And so we're excited about what you're doing and just want to thank you for that.
Thank you. Thanks for giving us an opportunity to share it with your listeners and hope that they take something meaningful away from it.
Definitely.
Absolutely. We are so excited for our listeners to check out Earth and Star. So that's earthandstar.com. Erica and Zoe so kindly have offered our listeners a little special gift. So what can they use to help them out?
So if they go to earthandstar.com, they can use the code IV15 at checkout for 15% off their first order. We're also available on Amazon, and on our website, you can go and see the retail locations all around the country where we're available. So if it's easier for you to pop into your local store, that's an option too, but you only get the discount if you come to earthandstar.com.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you so much.
And be sure to leave a review so they can know what you loved about it. Yes. And we want to know too.
Definitely. I want that dark chocolate.
Oh.
And I'm a coffee drinker. I'm just going to, and gummies, we eat gummies every day for vitamins. So I'm going to be filling up my cart.
Immediately add to cart.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you too again. We leave our listeners with 3 gold stars. So these are our takeaways. Small steps. I know it's kind of hard to put everything y'all are about in 3 takeaways, but if you had to, what would they be?
Light, just any kind of natural light as much as you can over the course of the day with no UV blockers, no blue blockers, nothing. Just pure light is amazing. And it directly impacts the quality of your sleep. So sleep would be my second one. And this is a constant quest my whole entire life. And it's getting better a little bit at a time. I'm going to say light, sleep, and mushrooms.
I love it. Zoe, would yours be the same, or do you have 3 different ones?
Sleep is probably my number one. It's my number one, especially with 2 kids, because I really have a such a great point of reference. When I don't sleep, I feel X. When I do sleep, I feel Y. I mean, it's just such an obvious contrast. And on every front, I think it affects my health. So I would say sleep, and prioritizing sleep is just tops. And I'm also a great napper. I will shut it down if you give me a dark room. I think light is definitely important. Getting outside, I do that or at least try to every day early. I'm kind of forced to. It's a force function. Force function. Is that what you say? And I mean, I think the last thing again is I mentioned this earlier, but I really feel like this is just such an overlooked, thing that you can do very easily that is so important for your mental health. And it is just picking up the phone or talking to a person, either in person or over the phone or whatever it is, like a real person having a real exchange, not over a screen, not over a Zoom, hearing someone's voice, not focusing on staring at your own reflection in the Zoom, in this, like today, it's just like a lost art, like the art of conversation, the art of just being like, hey, I just called to say hi and check in, and I don't really have an agenda. And like, what are you up to? We text, and it's just like, it's the only way we really seem to communicate on the regular. And, when you text someone, how are you? You're not really asking how they are, right? It's kind of like, if you really wanted to know, like, no one's going to respond to a text with like a true picture of how they're truly doing, right? In text mode. So I just think that is something we need to get back to and start to, force yourself. It's like uncomfortable. You're like out of habit, but like pick up a phone, like go meet someone in person and have a conversation.
Love
it
that.
sounds so simple, but
You're right.
But the important things and the things that actually make us healthy are simple. That's what I'm learning. It's getting back to the basics, like sunlight and sleep and good quality food or supplements. It is food. It's the earth, mushrooms.
Yeah.
And talking to different humans.
Yeah, human connection.
Yes. I love that. You two are so genuine. And I love meeting people that are powerhouses, that are successful, and then grounded. I feel like you're just two magical unicorns that are hard to find and that are hard to like have real conversations with. And I can't say this enough about Highway to Well is like, when we were talking about today, I didn't really feel that nervous. I was just like, I feel like I know them. I feel like they're so honest and real and raw and like can joke about insecurities or things they're bad at. And it's like so refreshing. So if you needed me to build you up anymore, I'll just keep going. You can call me Zoe. I'll tell you how I feel about you.
Tell me, how are you feeling today?
But next up is Unleashing Ivy. These are 3 rapid fire questions, surprise questions. And mine goes along with what I'm already saying. And that is relationships through this process outside of your business. So family and friends, as you've created things and had to hustle or got a lot of money or all of it that comes with your territory and balancing all the things. So how have you maintained or created boundaries with relationships through this journey?
Maintained or created boundaries. For me, I think, it's the combination of the journey of building the business and also going into lockdown and not physically seeing people. And then also, as I said earlier, like I'm not in my hometown right now. I'm away for a couple of months. So Zoe's point, getting on the phone, making sure that I'm like reconnecting as often as possible. And then also setting the boundaries and saying ahead of time, like, you know what, today's not a good day for me. I love you. I will check in with you tomorrow. I think it's actually been a really great way to kind of take stock and edit a little bit. And that's not to say, cutting people out of my life that just aren't like fun anymore. It's like really trying to pay attention to what I need as opposed to, I think I have a tendency to be a people pleaser, and I'm trying really hard to make sure that like I am giving and I'm present for somebody, but I also need them to be present for me. And it's not always going to be the same every day. I'm not expecting an even exchange of energy and love and attention on a daily basis, but taking stock and making sure that, that ultimately net, we're both coming out feeling like there's value here.
Love that. How about you, Zoe?
I don't know. It's interesting. Creating boundaries and maintaining relationships. I mean, it's like, they shake hands. It's a funny thing. And I just think about my husband, who is a very people-pleasing social animal, who is so energized with anything social, like it energizes him, right? And I'm that introvert, extrovert, combination where it's like, I love that, but I also I find that kind of draining. I love it, but it takes a lot out of me. So I have to like also, sort of like step back sometimes and fill up my cup again. And I find that more and more, I constantly have to remind myself, especially with the dynamic of my husband and I, because he's always sort of like on the go, meeting people, doing this, getting in the mix, whatever. And I'm just like, I feel like there's so much of that, like that demand on me to sort of like meet his level of participation. That is like a constant battle for me to be like, nope, you know what? I'm going to say no to that event. I'm going to say no to like going out with that person or going over that. Like, so that's like that's a muscle that I have to exercise very regularly. And I think Erica probably knows I'm talking about because she knows my husband. So yeah, I mean, I think it's reminding myself that it's okay to just like say no, like you're not being antisocial. You're just taking a beat for yourself. And, I don't like to feel like I'm raggedy and like always trying to catch up. And like, I've never given myself proper time to like, he's saying refill my cup, but like, I can't give you anything if I haven't filled this up.
Amen.
You are practicing JOMO as opposed to FOMO.
JOMO. Wait, what's the J?
The joy of missing out.
Oh, I like it.
You know what? There is sort of like a quiet confidence that comes along with that, where it's like, you know what? I'm cool. Like, it's good.
I need to do me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you're saying, put on your oxygen mask first.
Yeah.
I'm also hearing the power of the pause, like taking a step, taking a minute and being like, what the hell do I need? Like, I'm not being intentional. I'm not being present. I'm being go, go, go. Like I'm on E. What do I need to do to take a minute?
It might not be going to a party.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like to do that takes time management, which is a learned art. And so I'm curious for both of you. That's my Unleashing Ivy question, is one thing that makes or has made the most difference for you both when it comes to time management?
Great question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Off the top of my head, I will say that I have no alerts on my phone. And that has made an enormous difference. I have no social media alerts. I have no email alerts. My phone is available to me only when I choose to engage with it, but it is not chasing me down.
Love that.
I literally just did that and it's so good. Okay. And Zoe?
Okay, so you don't have a calendar alert on your phone?
No calendars.
Now she's concerned.
I know when I'm supposed to be someplace, but I'm saying in terms of things requiring a response or requiring, attention that I'm not otherwise interested in giving. No. So that's it.
No. Yeah, I don't do that.
And your number gets through all of the filters. Don't worry. I'm not going
to. I was like, oh, silent mode. I mean, for me, it's very simple. It's just like, I'm like a list maker. I have to, like in the morning, before I get sucked into what I know is going to be the vortex of like reactive emails and like not really feeling like I have a plan that's like, okay, I need to like check off these things. Like I'll just like, before I even go there, I'll make a list of like all the things rattling around in my brain that I know I'll forget if I don't write it down and I want to get to it at some point today. I mean, that's it. I do try and do that before I like start work or like, sit down in front of a computer and open up my inbox. But that's super helpful because I think it's very easy to get caught in this like mode of like just reacting to every single thing. And then you start working frantically, like you're in this hustle mindset, but you're not actually doing much of anything. You're just like, feels like very busy work that's not super meaningful. So that's what I try and do.
Yeah. Like we always say, run your day. Don't let your day run you. I feel like that's why I have 3 kids too. And I like getting up before them, even if it's 10 minutes, like I feel like I'm running my day. And if I wake up to a little face next to me, I feel like I'm behind the rest of the day. And I know that's a mindset thing I'm working on, but yeah, I love that. Also, before I ask the last question of Unleashing Ivy, I need to know the name of that dog that is snoring because what is the name of your dog?
That is Irving.
Irving. God, I love dog names.
Irving is, I'm sorry about that, everyone. There's nothing I can do. He's old and he's deaf. And
you know what?
He knows the importance of sleep.
Irving is self-caring right now. He's
practicing self-care. Yes.
I love it.
You know what? He doesn't care what anyone thinks.
I'm a little sad I can't see him, but it's okay. Let him sleep. Do
you want me to put him in the frame?
I mean,
we're working on getting a gold ivy mascot.
Just don't wake him because I feel bad.
You can actually keep him in. I mean, we've had a long time to
No, the snoring may interrupt my sleep, and that is something I value.
Yeah, I feel like I can hear him snoring from like miles away when I'm not.
Just in the back of your head.
Yes, constantly.
Oh, he's little. Oh, is that a Cavalier?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And he's deaf?
Yeah.
Oh, what
Look
a
at him.
sweetie.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Everyone needs to go to YouTube immediately and check out this pup.
Oh, are you so tired or you can't hear me? Oh, obsessed with dogs. I want one so bad. Okay, last question of Unleashing Ivy. And take your time with this, but what is one thing you wish you would have known sooner?
Nothing.
Oh, can you elaborate on why nothing?
No, I know. This is my new perspective on that question, which is just, and I think about it in the context of kind of every major sort of like life moment. Like when I think about it in the context of business with Blueprint, I think if we knew how hard it was going to be, we wouldn't have done it. I think about children. I feel like if I knew how hard it was going to be, I probably wouldn't have done it. I think about it in the context of marriage. I'll go ahead and say that. All of the things that bring me so much challenge and also so much joy. Like I actually don't want to know. Don't want to know. I'm very happy that I didn't know because otherwise I wouldn't have done them. And looking back, I'm happy that I did them because they bring me all this happiness and joy. Usually, for the most part.
Love that.
So I mean, the answer is no. I don't. I wouldn't change. I wouldn't want to look into a crystal ball there.
How about you, Erica?
Amen to that. I think I would probably, this is kind of along, it's sort of the parallel of like, what would you tell yourself, looking back, but I think it's just like, it doesn't all have to be that serious. I think that's also my thing. My whole life is like, I've just, taken things very seriously and wanting to do a good job in every area. And it's like, it just doesn't all have to be that serious all the time. It really doesn't.
Oh, I love that. It's so important too. I mean, we're like baby entrepreneurs, compared to you guys. And it's like, if we're not having fun in this process or enjoying what we're doing, like what is the point? Like we don't want to be miserable. Yeah. We believe in what we're doing, but like, we also need to take time to care for yourself and have fun and enjoy what you're doing. Cause if you're not, it's just a waste of time.
Yeah. Remembering why you're even doing it. Yeah. We get so caught up in, especially when you're helping people, right? Like when your mission is greater than you. Like for me, it's helping all these people all over the world now. And I'm like, okay, I need to immediately respond and do this and do that. No, it's like, okay, take a step back. Like you are helping, you are adding value, but like you're doing this for you too. You got to have some fun. So I love that you said that. Thank you for that reminder.
I don't want to let you two go. It has been so nice chatting with you. Thank you so much for your time. We know how valuable that is. We love what you're doing in the world, and it's been an honor to meet you. And just to send off our listeners with your piece of gold, Erica and Zoe, would you like to share them?
Sure. I have a piece of gold that I'm not entirely sure where it comes from, but there's iterations of it in all different philosophies and whatever, but the words are: perfection is the enemy of action.
What about you, Zoe?
Something I've been saying a lot lately to myself and also to Erica, that I've been saying it in sort of like these like very challenging moments, which is just change is coming. And so I find that whenever I'm struggling with anything, even like a workout, I'm like, okay, change is coming. Like this is going to shift like very soon. Something's going to happen. Like in any moment of being uncomfortable or a challenge, like change is going to come. And I think that there's some relief in my telling myself that, and whether the change is going to be the change that I want, or maybe not the change that I wanted, something is going to shift, right? It's not like you're going to be stuck in this feeling or this moment forever. So it's going to shake up somehow. It's going to shake out. And I also find that using that when you're in a positive moment is helpful too, right? So when I'm like having a really sort of present moment and like, oh, you know what, this is like so awesome that I get to do this, or like I'm really enjoying this like moment with my kid, or like whatever it is, I also like remind myself, I'm like, oh, change is coming. And it doesn't take me out of that moment and turn it into something negative. It actually just makes me sort of appreciate it more in that instant. So I find it to be like a very useful statement to say to myself in pretty much any kind of like intense situation. Change is coming.
This is Gold Ivy signing off.
Listen to your truth and go chase your gold.